We have a lot of different things to cover today. Sorry for the long layoff, but had a lot of stuff going on. I'm moving from college, things like that. But we have a lot of different things to cover. There has been a lot of news coming out recently in the past couple of weeks, to be brutally honest. And I'm going to go through a lot of what happened and kind of a big recap of a lot of the news that we've had recently. Starting off with this, that UFC 320 could move to the U.S., because of the Guadalajara arena is actually canceled all of its events through September 4th, as you can see on the graphic. I'm just trying to talk to the camera from what I remember. But so basically every single event that is taking place currently right before the pay-per-view has been canceled because of construction and it not being ready yet. Now, there were concerns with this with the Manchester arena a while back. Actually, before I dig into this, let's talk about the other things we have to talk about today. Next up, Penn has been arrested twice within 12 hours for the same charges, the same reasons going on, and a lot of it has to do with his mother. Free BJ. I'll start there before I get into it. And then next up, Pico versus Evloev is set for a 5-round co-main event now. You wonder why Yair was on the main graphic of this, and it's because Yair is getting a title shot. And the UFC is skipping out on Mozart, as I said they would. So I'm not going to cover that too much because I did predict it essentially in my last video. And then lastly, in today's video, let's talk about the petition to have Jon stripped. I've already had it. So I've already signed it myself. Has 120,000 signatures now, or 120,000 signatures now. You know, compared to this post made 16 hours ago. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's start with this. So as I said, there were a lot of concerns last year with the Manchester arena that they used in July, if it was going to be ready, the co-op arena, which there were concerns with that because there were construction issues and it was brand new. But that was a lot less recent. Those concerns started like in March and April. Well, these have been, every single event canceled through, through nearly the pay-per-view date is not a good sign. That's a really, really bad sign. A UFC pay-per-view being the first event an arena will ever host. It's kind of scary. And I could definitely see this actually getting moved back to Las Vegas. Maybe they'll try and move it to somewhere else in Mexico. But to be honest, I think that they should just move it to the U.S. and not give Yair a title shot, especially because they said that Yair versus Volk probably wouldn't happen in September anyway because of Volk's baby. So we would probably have to wait until November, October. So it should be in Australia if they're trying to do the Islam fight around that time, but, I digress. But this is actually really good for the UFC or really good for us, not good for the UFC, good for us, because who the fuck really wants to go to Mexico? To be brutally honest, if we're not gonna have any actual, people to headline the pay-per-view, and I think that this gives us better matchmaking. It gives us more flexibility for what fights we can do, through that time. And, we'll see what happens. I don't know how much is really available for that time of the year, so I am a little bit concerned. But to be brutally honest, we are happy that this means that Yair might not get his title shot. Now, he probably still will get his title shot, because they gave Evloev the fight against Pico. Sorry, I tried to click the X there. Jeez. Since Mozart's fighting Pico, well, it hasn't been confirmed by Big Marcel yet, but it is pretty much confirmed that fight is happening. It just hasn't been announced or anything like that yet, and that's a big fight, so we'll see if it gets announced. But this will be good. Give Volk a little more time to figure out his opponent, and hopefully we can skip over a Yair title shot, because no one wants it, especially if it's not in Mexico, but they'll probably still do it because they'll be like, well, he just deserves it. over Movzar. So we'll see. I can honestly see that happening, but UFC Guadalajara might be canceled. Good for the fans. Obviously sucks for Mexican fans, and I would love if there was a fight night in Mexico. Go back to Mexico City for UFC Noche, make a pay-per-view or make a fight night there, then put a pay-per-view in September, and put it in Vegas, whatever. Put it in LA, put it wherever, honestly. And then we can really start getting going here on the UFC matchmaking rather than stalling out with this Guadalajara card. But we'll see what happens. Moving on. Let's actually talk about the Movzar Evloev fight first before we go on to BJ Penn. Terrible matchmaking. Really sad to see. I don't get why Aaron Pico is having this is what I hate about the UFC. They bring in these guys, and I'm not gonna make the same take somebody else said, but you could say about the money and they're giving them a good matchup. You could say that, and that's probably true. But what I want to say is, this is just all this does. The message I really want to send. I am stuttering like hell through this video. I am so sorry. I have had a weird day. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I think that when you give these big names out of promotions, these big shots right into ranked opportunities, we don't know how they compare against the rest of the division. Which this is a message that other people send, but this is really... I need to go into how it really affects the division, because we bring these guys in so that we have new, fresh blood in there. And we don't have to rely on a prospect coming up. We can just get a new free agent who's ready to step in towards the top. Pitbull fought Yair in his first fight. Michael Chandler fought Dan Hooker in his first fight. Kyle Sakura got a title shot in his first fight. And that's because of how thin flyweight is. But now, Aaron Pico's getting a shot against Movzar Evloev in what is absolutely a title eliminator for whatever reason, when Movzar should be in the title, when Movzar should be the one getting a title shot. Aaron Pico should be fighting someone who is, I would say, between 10 and 15. You need to enter a guy like Pico in the same way you entered MVP. MVP, they gave Kevin Holland, a 13th ranked welterweight, who it made sense in terms of the name value, and it also just made sense because it gives him a short place in the rankings. Now, of course, it would be nice to have MVP, at the top of the rankings and getting him in there with the new names already. He had his chance against Ian Gary. It was a really close fight, and he was nearly there. And he can still be there. He just hasn't had any fights. I don't know why MVP's not fighting. He takes no damage in his fights, and he just isn't fighting. And I never heard anything about news on him. But I just really wish that Pico would get a shot against a Dan Ige. Or I think Ige's gonna fight Pitbull, to be honest. But I think Pico should maybe, try to think of people at 45. Giga. Giga would be an interesting fight. Onama, Zalal. Just any of those guys right now, I think would be more fair to give an Aaron Pico. And if you want to give him a shot up into the rankings, give him an Ortega. Give him a name that's been around for a while. You make it the main event of Fight Night. I don't understand why you just have to make a co-main event for a fight night that's this big. Oh, because it's Abu Dhabi, and because you didn't give Movzar a title shot, and you're just going to give Aaron Pico this one opportunity, and then when he loses by close decision, we're all going to be like, well, now, who does Pico fight? Pico hasn't beaten anybody in the division. We have no idea how he stacks up against the rest of the division. God, it's so frustrating. It ruins it. It ruins the reason you brought them over. And I think, if you want to give him an Ortega, you want to give him a, or you want to do a fight that, still pushes him into more title eliminator territory, Lerone Murphy, you want to put him in a firefight, give him Josh Emmett. There are names at featherweight that we can give to Aaron Pico, and I feel like we're just kind of throwing this fight together because we can't give Movsar a title shot. It's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And yeah, man, I feel for Movsar. It's really shameful what the UFC is doing. And, you know, I see this fight being a close, really close decision. Yeah, that's honestly what I see for 5 rounds, and then Movsar will get his title shot. But, whatever. I just don't understand why this is happening. Oh, man, I'm tired. I don't understand why this is happening, and I don't understand why we can't just give Pico an entry fight into the rankings. We have to give him a Movsar Evloev. It just makes no sense. So another terrible matchmaking example from the UFC. But let's move on from that and all the the dwell and the doom and gloom. BJ Penn was arrested, guys. Now this is very sad news. So I don't know why I said I was going to move away from the doom and gloom, but going right back into it. Need to free my boy. BJ. He didn't do anything wrong. His family, it got murdered. Okay. I'm actually not going to go into the conspiracy on here because I don't want to say that what it is true. However, let's actually go through the story. So yeah, BJ Penn, he was arrested for offensive physical contact on a family or household member. I believe it was his mother. I'm assuming it was his mother. Because his mother's been the one that he has really been pushing this narrative on. If you've ever been looking at BJ Penn's Instagram, I'm not going to show it here. But if you want to go onto BJ Penn's Instagram, you can take a look at some of the videos he's been posting. And I believe it was his mom, because his mom is the one who eventually pressed charges against him, and I'm assuming called the police on him. And BJ Penn, yeah, his mother is claiming abuse, theft, and delusions. And there is this, syndrome for this. It's, Capgras delusional syndrome, which, it makes him, see that his family has imposters, and I think it is related to his CTE as well. At least there's some sort of mixture going on there, and it's messing him up. And, psychological abuse and harassment. She's going to win these charges with the videos that are being posted. And as long as she can't prove her identity as Lorraine Shin, BJ Penn's mother, this case will end up okay for her. It really is sad to see, being serious about this. BJ Penn, it's really, really sad to see, a legend of the game like this, suffer the repercussions of the sport he was in. But also, this guy, he's been terrible since he retired. He was he refused retirement a lot of times, and he kept fighting, and it was not good for him. And then you see the videos of him getting slept in street fights where he's just fighting. This guy is just, he's taken too much willful damage, and I think it's really gotten to him, and I think this dude I think he's gone. I think his soul is gone. And, oh wow, I'm just reading, I didn't even see this part of the last time, but vandalism of her home security system, even being physically assaulted when she tried to call. I knew that. She also claims that Penn violated a police-issued 48-hour stay-away order and was arrested twice within days. It goes on to the Capgras delusional syndrome. Yeah. Very serious, very sad. Sad to see, and I hope that BJ Penn does, get the help that he needs and actually can figure out what's going on in his life. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening for him. Yeah, I am on Knockout Alert's Instagram page, but I've got one more thing to cover in today's video before we move on. I gotta record the predictions video for this stacked weekend. I'm not gonna make it super long, man. There's not too much to talk about. But let's talk about this. Petition to strip Jon Jones of the UFC Undisputed Heavyweight Championship has reached 120,000 signatures now. It's written, the 100,000 posts here. And honestly, this is what we needed. I signed this really early, probably when it had a few thousand signatures, because on my personal Instagram I follow Tony Has Died, and I think he's very funny. Shout out, to all 20 whatever of my subscribers. for Tony has died, but this is a really good idea to do this, and it really has gotten attention because Daniel Cormier's talked about it on his page. All these MMA people have talked about it. It definitely has the attention of the UFC. It's getting out there. All right, and now that it's got 120,000, like it's had its moments where it's slowed down, but it just keeps picking back up. I don't know how it keeps doing this, but I mean, over 100,000 signatures. This is absolutely insane. MMA Guru shouted it out. You know, we're getting the big names of the community pushing this, and they need to be, because I'm not going to have an impact on pushing it. Now, if any of you have not seen this petition and you're just now seeing this video, sign it. All right, we need every person we can get to strip Jon Jones of the heavyweight championship. Tom Aspinall just on his Instagram said he had heavyweight news. It's a clothing brand, and there's going to be heavyweight T-shirts. That's what it's going to be. So, listen, my dog is crying right now. She's weird. She cries outside for people. If anyone walks by the house, she like cries and barks, and it's terrible. But I mean, we really needed this as a sport. We needed the fans to be able to get their point across, because we've all been saying it. But then there's the Jones fans that are delusional and that appear up in every comment section and get likes, and it's the dumbest shit you've ever seen. Jon doesn't need to fight him. Isn't Pereira gonna fight him? Like, this is a way to really get the point across. And Dana has to have seen it. People have had to have seen it. Jon has seen it. Like, we are here. This is happening, and I really don't see this petition not requiring some sort of statement or some sort of action from the UFC, as long as it keeps growing. And at 120,000 signatures now, you know, when this was less than a day ago, hit 100K, you know, we're really pushing this, and I really do think that we're going to get some action caused by the UFC. And they either have to announce the fight now. Like, I don't care if it's for November. Announce it now. Give us a date. Or strip them of the belt. Because, man, we aren't waiting any longer. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, we need this fight now, because it's stalling the fucking division. And we have nobody at heavyweight fighting each other right now. And you don't think the other contenders are frustrated with this? Alexander Volkov just came out and sent a message on this, and he was talking about how he would probably have a title shot right now if it wasn't for Jon Jones holding up the belt and if Tom was champion. Like, we are at the point where other contenders are, like, not even fighting now. Because what point is there for them to? Why would they fight if they're not even going to get a title shot? So, we had to figure this out first. So, hopefully Jon does get stripped, or they get the fight done. But I think he's done. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, you know, we'll see. Jon is a PD cheat, eye poke cheat, ruins the sport, sham of a champion, sham of a goat, whatever you want to call him, you know, ducking Tom Aspinall for this long. It's time to move on. And I think everyone in the sport is ready for it. So, glad to see that we made a little bit of impact. Video wasn't super long. Glad to be back a little bit. You know, this was kind of a dead video. I wish I could have done a little bit better recap in this news, but I've had a really weird day. We're gonna do the predictions video here in a second for the stacked Apex Macy Barber versus Aaron Blanchfield card we got this weekend. Yeah, I'm home for the summer. And then I have my own single room, and then I will be moving into an apartment. So for the next 3 months, this will be the setup, and then there will be very rare moments where this will be the setup ever again. So, yeah. I just had to say that message. Appreciate everybody watching. Bye.